Today we're going to talk about an item that you could run into and not even know it, that can get you arrested just by listing it online. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to talk about an item that could literally put you in jail just for listing it on a site. Whether you know it or not, whether you even understand that what you are doing is illegal. Ignorance of the law is no excuse at all for many different things like this. Today we're going to talk about ivory specifically because it's something that you could run into and not even realize what you have. Many people are misidentifying it, whether intentionally or not, as bone, cow bone, or something like that. If you don't know what the material is, don't just shoot some answer out there hoping that that's what it is. Anything that would be construed as real ivory without permits or that doesn't qualify as able to be sold, I would never even try to attempt to buy. That goes for anything along that line, whether it's tortoiseshell, rhino horn, or any of those endangered species. Even bird feathers from common birds that you may see in your yard could get you in trouble. So you've got to be extremely careful with stuff like that. Now, this is why I'm bringing this up right now. There's been many reports and studies actually narrowing in on eBay as being a culprit for not bringing a lot of these types of listings down. There's a lot of people that are misidentifying what they have. Whether it's intentionally or not, it doesn't matter. You're still openly offering ivory and things like that for sale on the site. This can 100% land you in jail when you are sending it over state lines. If it's sold on eBay, chances are it did go out of the state of the seller because most items aren't sold in that person's state. Now, the biggest area that they're finding these in is Netsukis, which are Japanese, I guess you'd call them a weight for their robes. I've got some carved out of wood. I don't have any ivory, but even if you did, if it was an heirloom that was passed down to you, you could technically keep it. Now, on here, they're saying they're not finding on Etsy and another site called Pre-Loved, which is a British UK site that allows you to sell used stuff on it. Pre-Love's been around for like 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So pay attention to this. This news is all over the place. So they're cracking down on this kind of thing right now. If you are in doubt, do not list it. It's going across the board. There are tons of articles out there right now talking about eBay and this. Again, I don't necessarily say eBay is the one who's perpetrating this. A lot of people are intentionally listing it with a different word in the title. Or again, they may not realize it's ivory, or even thought that would be something like that made out of ivory. I will probably have a few links to these down in the description box if anybody wants to read it. But there are some other links that I will include as well, which are straight from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Now, this one here goes into whole detail on ivory and the rules, the laws, and it goes into some of the aspects of antiques and collectibles, and it'll actually lead you to a secondary page, which I have right here. Now, the rules on it, on selling it now, is not less than 100 years of age. So, again, if it's over 100 years, it qualifies already. It's composed in whole or in part of any endangered species or threatened species listed under the Act. Again, elephant and its ivory. Has not been repaired or modified with any part of any such species on or after December 28, 1973. And the last one is entered at a port of designation for the import of ESA antiques. Now, that's if it's imported. If it's already over here, it's already qualified under these rules here. Again, you can own it, but do not attempt to sell it. Even though this says that under these conditions you can, I still would not attempt it. Many people, or even possibly some law enforcement, may not realize that, and it could cause you some headache. Either way, it should not ever be listed on eBay. You could unintentionally get yourself a felony charge for selling something that is banned or totally illegal in your state, as I said, like California or New York. Now, one more from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. This is under Internal Affairs. This is active and live from their page right this very minute. And here they state, it's important to note that the new regulations do not restrict personal possession of ivory. So if you're worried that you accidentally have some in your family's possession or it showed up somewhere or something like that, having it or possessing it is not illegal. You trying to sell it, though, could be, again, depending on the specific rules. Part of of the reason why it's still allowed is because a lot of musical instruments that are played and possessed by some state and national organizations have ivory in them. Inlays, keys on things, and stuff like that. So there are many reasons why some of this is still allowed. In these cases, too, the musical instrument in question could be hundreds of years old, far predating any type of law or regulation about the items in question here. This sort of thing, though, explains all of the detail about it. So pay attention to it. Read it if you have any doubt. And one last link, which will be the very first link down in the description box here, will take you to this one here. This is Identification Guide for Ivory and Ivory Substitutes. This is the official guide used by government agencies to determine what's real and what is not. If you need to know the description of it, go through here. Now, it's a lot of pages, but there are some very specifics in here. If you slide through, it goes into every aspect of it, whether it's from a specific animal, what part of the animal, and then it also goes into how to identify it very specifically. It tells you what to look for. It shows some examples. This page right here, and this is page 28 on this link that I have down here, shows you exactly what to look for. This ring pattern, and it's going to have a cross hatching if it's big enough, where you'll see some lines going in the opposite direction, which basically imitates a cross hatching technique. It goes into very specific details. In some of those reports I showed you about looking into eBay listings, scientists and wildlife specialists were using the photos posted up on eBay to determine what had these patterns and what did not. Many of the items did show that they were clearly ivory based on this. Now, some of the imitation stuff looks very close, but it is not nearly identical to what actual ivory looks like. It's a pseudo-ivory, and it just doesn't show all these details and aspects of it. And it's going to go into a lot of detail. It's going to show you netsukis and all sorts of other items. It goes into a ton of different details. How to tell resins and things like that, to resemble it, ways to tell with using lights, and the whole works. So this is the definitive guide on being able to identify actual ivory versus something fake or not. Again, there will be a link down in the description box for this. Pay attention to this one. Page 28 shows you examples of what to look for ivory, and that is the key to it. Don't list it. Don't make a mistake. It can end you up in jail. Now, I've been a button collector for a very long time, mostly U.S. military vintage, going back to the Rev War. I've got a couple 100,000 buttons in my inventory right this very second. There is one button, though, that is extremely special to me, and it's something that I found in my grandmother's estate when she passed away when I was a child. Let's see if we can get this in shot here. This is out of my personal collection. And it's this button right here. Now, this is a U.S. Navy button, and this is made out of ivory. And this was supplied to the U.S. Navy sometime in the 1860s or 70s from the information that I have found. That button is actually pictured in this book. This is a military book on just buttons. This is the Bible on buttons. It's Albert's Identification of U.S. Military Buttons. This book was published in 1976. Was written before that, and the data in this book comes from actual government contracts for those orders. Now, what's key about that, this establishes that this button is actually older than 100 years. It establishes that this button was imported correctly. It establishes a time frame that this button would have been made and would have been available. It also was legally imported because it was made for the U.S. government. Collectibles and stuff like that that you personally own is legal in the ivory area as of now. Check the laws in your state and what you can do with it, though. One thing you should never do, though, as I said, is listed on eBay. That can get you into some big trouble. If you are offering to sell across the globe or even across the country, you are violating a law because you cannot sell it to several different states. You cannot sell it in some states at all. So if you're crossing borders and things like that, that is a federal issue and you can get yourself into some major issues. Do not do it. Don't do it. When in doubt, just don't do it. Well, anyway, that's what I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.